Longest Walk. Its author is George Meegan. Mr. Meegan holds 8 world records, including the one and only crossing on foot of the Western Hemisphere, the longest walk in man's recorded history. The Royal Geographical Society says Meegan has crossed the last continent left to cross on foot. It marks the end of an era. On January 26, 1977, from Ushuaia, Terra del Fuego in Argentina, 7 years later in Alaska, 14 countries, 19,017 miles, 31 million steps. Why? Don't say 'cause it was there.
No, I won't say that to you, Larry. But I could say, why not?
Why? I was thinking about it when you started it, George. I was going to do it first. And I said, George has started, forget it. No, why walk? Really?
Why? Nobody had ever crossed the hemisphere on foot, and it struck me that it should be done, and I'm an Englishman, and as a young lad I used to dream of journeys because I read the books of journeys, and so often the adventurers were English, and I felt I could contribute to my nation's tradition and destiny.
Hey, here he comes, George Meegan. You look different from that old CNN.
16 years ago, and hello Larry King, hello Akiko.
Hi. So Mr. King asked you, so why were you up there anyway?
We were up there on Point Barrow, Alaska in the year 2000 because, in essence, physical journeys of this sort over time become spiritual journeys, and as Mr. Larry King said, mine began on Tierra del Fuego, and I'll show you just where that is. It's a nice convenient map here.
Wow.
Oh, there we And there we got it, and it began Tierra del Fuego, named by Magellan, and straight up through South America, Central America, Mexico, across over to the New York City area, then across Canada, over to Vancouver, British Columbia, Yukon, and up to here, Alaska, and it had never been done before. And you know, Akiko, it was the indigenous native people who so helped me, and they never asked me why, as you just did. And can you imagine? I was a young Englishman then.
Not really.
Well, I was, and I travelled without money and was alone. What privilege I had. And the issue of saying thank you to the native people, how could this be achieved? This film is how we begin to achieve that. And so in January of the glorious year 2000, we were on Point Barrow together with my students of the Maritime University of Japan, Kobe, and we went for our adventure. From all over the world they came, and using the deep symbolism of the millennium, we together on Point Barrow marched hopefully to save a people. It is now generally thought that by year 2020 all native cultures will be vanquished finally. These, the most ancient of treasures, reaching far back to the dawn of our human history, can anything avert their imminent loss to the world? Hope from the land of the polar bear is an ancient Indian prophecy coming to us from several centuries before. Could it now at last possibly be realized? The situation was this. I needed to thank the native people, and to do that I needed help, a symbolic person, if you will. And so I contacted a young Athabascan girl named Tisha Simmons, and you will see her arriving in Point Barrow on a dog sled driven by the legendary Antarctic explorer Colonel Norman Vaughan.
It was a place for heroes.
Yes, but the weather was down to minus 81 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, that little journey that Tisha will make is extremely important. It's symbolic of many, many things. So, Tisha into the sled and Colonel So, this is what minus 81 degrees Fahrenheit looks like. For the average person, life can be snuffed out just like that. So, seeking shelter from the raging Arctic tempest, brave Tisha Athabaskan, suffering from quadriplegia, is carried by Peter Captain Jr. into the most north cabin in all America. This is history. Right. Now the other
Play about that.
Everybody had a workout.
Right here.
He won't jump in this weather.
Oh no, good.
Today, Tisha is working to become a doctor of psychology so that she can best help her people with many problems, including suicide.
And because of the weather, we had to return next year, which was the 23rd of January 2001.
Why was that date so important?
Well, the 23rd of January is where the sun reaches the most northerly community in the world, which is Point Barrow, Alaska. And by 2001, we not only ended the 20th century, we also ended the entire second millennium.
And this is where I enter the story on Point Barrow. You think we're gonna have a chance to see the polar bears? The polar bears?
Because we're going so fast with our lights on,
Yeah.
most likely we'll scare any polar bears off today.
Oh, okay.
Most likely. I mean, if they're there, they're looking at us going, we better get out of the area. Here come some weird people.
I now take into my own name the word hope, because hope is what we are here for. Thank you. We have to move now south to try and do what we will do to change this world and alter a direction of history which is threatening the dearest and most beloved native people of this world. On we go. In line with turning ancient prophecy into reality, we march south from Point Barrow. It is now only about 19 years until the predicted final collapse of all First Nation cultures. We must push on. By dusk arisen, we must rendezvous with the other half of our team waiting just off Point Barrow, the top of the world. We must link up with Pathfinder, vital, for with his parachute come the documents to turn prophecy into reality, and of course, the last determined action of the 20th century. After 3 months of darkness, the people of Barrow, Alaska come out to see the jumper and witness the arrival of Sikwanachuk. Captain John, it was to be an aircraft, but it became a helicopter.
Yeah.
How did that work? What happened in that?
Well, because of the weather and the ceiling, Cape Smythe were unable to help us out. And Barrow Search and Rescue graciously came through and helped us with this. And for that, I'm most appreciative that we could finish this off this year and do what we came here to do. And this is
Let us begin by expressing our profound sorrow for what this agency has done in the past. Just like you, when we think of these misdeeds and their tragic consequences, our hearts break, and our grief is as pure and complete as yours. We desperately wish that we could change this history, but of course we cannot. On behalf of the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I extend this formal apologies to the Indian people for the historical conduct of this agency. Never again will this agency stand silent while hate and violence are committed against Indians. Never again will we allow policy to proceed from the assumption that Indians possess less than human genius than the other races. Never again will we be complicit in the theft of Indian property. Never again will we appoint false leaders who serve purposes other than those of the tribes. Never again will we allow the unflattering, stereotypical images of Indians people to deface the halls of government or lead the American people to shallow and such ignorant beliefs about Indians. Never again will we attack your religions, your languages, your rituals, or any of your tribal ways. Never again will we seize your children, nor teach them to be ashamed of who they are. Never again. We cannot ask your forgiveness, not while the burden of this agency's history weighs so heavily on tribal communities. What we do ask is that together we allow the healing to begin. And as you return to your homes and you talk to your people, please tell them that the time of dying is at end. Tell your children that the time of shame and fear is over. Tell your young men and women to replace their anger with hope and love for their people. Together we must wipe out the tears of 7 generations. Together we must allow our broken hearts to mend. Together we will face a challenging world with confidence and trust. Together let us resolve that when our future leaders gather to discuss the history of this institution, it will be time to celebrate the rebirth of joy, freedom, and the progress for Indian nations. The Bureau of Indian Affairs was born in 1824 in a time of war on Indian people. May it live in the year 2001 beyond as an instrument of their prosperity. That was delivered by Kevin Gover, the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs.
The United States government should judge my agency ahead. Tutia over to not and she be not ahead to the partner, ahead of being match is not ahead of being master. As we speak today, I think it's very hard. I wish that Canada would make similar steps to the native people of Canada.
We marched under the auspices of Alaska European Union 2000. This was because the Vice President of the European Union's Parliament gave to me a flag to create reconciliation. No easy matter. This was my take on reconciliation. With this, to you gentlemen representing the native people, I say to you, absolutely sorry. I'd promised the 2 Labradorians that I would go to their village, Davis Inlet. Now, Davis Inlet is the most notorious village in all of Canada, and to perhaps illustrate this, I was in the Visitors Bureau on Prince Edward Island, and I mentioned that I was going there, and the response of the people was, "Davis Inlet? Terrible, impossible, you can't go there." But of course I must. These are some of the statistics.
Davis Inlet, out of 169 children, 157 are substance abusers, with 80 of these sniffing gasoline.
The implications here is brain damage.
So your plan was to go to Labrador?
Yes, and thanks to our friends at Air Labrador in January of 2003, they landed my team and I at Davis Inlet.